Welcome to the American Diversity Report podcasts, where we interview creative change makers and innovative people who make a difference in this world. I'm Deborah Levine, editor of the American Diversity Report, and your host. And with me today is someone who truly makes a difference, Bettie Kirkland. She has led Project Return for 10 years through the launch of the organization's 3 social enterprises. The agency's exponential growth in the number of people served and the first expansion into another city, my city, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Welcome, Bettie. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Thanks for having us.
Oh, it's been wonderful to see your organization being profiled in the Chattanooga Times Free Press and have you come here and make a difference. So tell us, first of all, a little bit about why what you do is such a passion for you and how you got started.
Yeah, Project Return was founded more than 40 years ago here in Nashville by a couple of faith leaders who were, I imagine they were angry at how difficult it was for people getting out of prison. And that fueled their interest in creating something, anything that would give people an opportunity to possibly succeed and build new lives after incarceration. And so that was the humble beginning of Project Return. I was fortunate to join it in 2011 and really found it fascinating that there was an organization that was really laser focused on this part of our humanity, this part of our community, individuals landing on the streets of our communities, having emerged from prison with nothing. And so that is, it's just motivating to me personally, as it is to, I think, all the people that I work with, finding that an opportunity to really connect with people meaningfully and making true change.
I can imagine, very inspiring. And these are the participants in the program, are these folks who are now out of prison and trying to start a new life.
Yes, we are really solely focused on individuals who have that recent incarceration. And, we found that if you imagine a ladder, I mean, they are just always inevitably finding themselves on the very bottom rung, or maybe not on a rung at all. And so it is a subset of the sort of poverty and disenfranchisement we may see generally across an urban community in particular. That mark, that stigma, that unfortunately sort of lifelong brand is devastating in people's lives. And so really being focused on that, building up our expertise around what those challenges are as they evolve or devolve, and really keeping our hearts and minds 100% dedicated to that particular struggle has been a key, I think, to our being able to grow and expand and as we like to say, do more for more.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about some of the challenges that these people face. What does it look like when they get out?
I think it from a perspective of a person who hasn't been incarcerated, it is it's startling how much it's like being exiled. There are penitentiaries across our state, typically kind of off by a river or over the hills. I could have gone through my entire Tennessee existence and not really been aware of those places. And so when someone emerges from them, I guess I want to say that it's as if this community wasn't expecting them. They kind of land here and there's not a place for them. Most of the people coming to Project Return don't have family at that point that they're really connected with. It is such a break from everything. And so they're coming back from exile, if you will, They typically don't have identification. So at a very basic level, they're vulnerable. I mean, it's almost metaphorical. They cannot even prove to us who they are in a way. I mean, it's just, and by us, I mean like if they're stopped by police or just if they're walking down the street or if they're trying to be employed, they don't have IDs. They typically have a few dollars in their pockets, but they also have debt. Unbeknownst to me, before I started this work, really every juncture along the criminal justice system pipeline, there are fees that are attached to their tab. So they come out in debt. The folks that are coming to our place typically don't have job prospects, don't have a place to live. So it is really a state of destitution that is made all the more acute by the fact that as a society, we marginalize them on the basis of their criminal conviction from the past and their incarceration history, which has just ended. And while we think of debt as something that gets paid and gets moved on from, in this case, it is a debt that really lingers and continues to hobble people. So that's kind of the challenge that people are facing. And there's this critical needs, like if I don't have food or water, then there's also sort of the ongoing needs, wanting to reunify with family, wanting to not only start to make money, but start to save money, and really all the things.
What kind of debt are we talking about here?
We, a lot. We did a study of our data most recently, and it was on average, it was 13,000 and change per person. So that's not insignificant.
No.
It can get really, really high. It depends on really what's happened with folks during the period of time that they've been incarcerated.
And what is this debt for?
It really is the fines and fees that come along in the criminal legal system. So if I'm incarcerated in a prison and I need to be, it's decided that I'm going to be transported to another incarceration facility, the cost of that transport gets tacked onto my tab. So there's a multitude of fines and fees from the time a person gets arrested, basically, and they just mount up over time.
Wow.
Yeah.
$13,000 is a lot of money if you have nothing.
Yes, it is.
I am sorry to hear this. So what happens to these people? How do the communities deal with them, or do they?
So the fortunate ones have family that they're connected with who are waiting for them to get out. So I think that's a category that's really notable, and our hearts go out to the family members who are, welcoming people home. There are also the fortunate few who have a spot in a transitional halfway house or some other type of living facility. So that's just a huge advantage over the ones that do not. Virtually, a lot of the folks who are getting out are homeless, and so there's the issue of really finding a place when you first get out or finding a bed in a shelter. Project Return, this is a heartbreaker, but we do give out tents to people. If someone is absolutely has no shelter, and we are faced with the choice of them having cover or not, we choose cover. And so it's just a very harsh reality. For us, what we recognize is people have to build an economy for themselves as soon as possible. The majority of people coming to Project Return are also on parole, and so that means there's a parole appointment to make, there are parole fees to pay on a regular basis, and so getting employment is really the imperative. It really is the difference maker. So while we are, of course, really thinking about the people as people and really trying to let them know that we embrace them and we see them as whole human beings who ought to have opportunities, we're also just urgent about creating that employment for them so that they can get started to create their own economy for themselves.
Right. So do you train them? Do you have training facilities?
So we do basically what's called soft skills training. And so every week we run a 2.5-day jam-packed job readiness curriculum that is really hitting on all the soft skills and what we would think of as the tenets of job readiness for our people to pick up on and grasp from the get-go. The basics like punctuality and attendance, communication in the workplace, many of the sort of dynamics that if someone's been incarcerated for a few years, they might not be familiar with in terms of appropriate communication, attire, those types of things. The way to talk about oneself, to be forthright about your past, but also give yourself credit for what you're moving toward and the person that you are. So all of those things make up the soft skills that will make a person more job ready. So that is our basic training for folks. And then if someone gets out of prison on a Friday, starts with Project Return on a Monday, our goal is to have them hired by that next Friday.
Oh.
So that they can start the following Monday in employment. It's just that urgent, and there's no need to wait. So really being that urgent about their future, getting it kicked off right away is important.
Imagine that the whole community benefits then from what you're doing.
So we see it that way. We do understand that when someone succeeds after incarceration, the entire community wins. From a very sort of humanity level, we're talking about human beings who can live full and free lives if only they have the opportunity, and that makes the whole community a healthier, stronger place. From a very, I guess, mercenary perspective, folks become tax-paying citizens, and that has a dollar attached to it, but it also has a sort of a civic participation element to it as well, that again contributes to sort of the health of the community in a more abstract way. There's many ways in which we all win when people getting out of prison win.
Yes, indeed. Tell us a little bit about the social enterprises that you're involved in.
Sure. Really, for us, we see social enterprise as a way to replicate the private market, but make it accessible for our people. So we see, for example, there's job opportunities out here, but our people may be excluded. There are rental opportunities out here, even affordable housing that's out here, but our people may be excluded. And the exclusion comes on the basis of their criminal conviction history. And it's frankly legal, basically. So what we do with social enterprise is we see that gap and we stand up our own small businesses in that gap so that those same opportunities that are available to people writ large are also available to our people. Our biggest and oldest social enterprise is a high quality staffing company. It's called Pro-E. And basically, when we meet with employers who are very interested in second chance hiring and who are very desirous of more workers and filling out their production floors and their workforce, when we meet with them and understand their business model, we're able to say to them, we can be the employer of record. We can be that first employer of people immediately after prison, and we can staff your work site. Not only do you gain that motivated workforce, but you get a really close-up, proximate view of how those workers perform. And we are pretty sure you're going to be really happy to see that. And so Pro-E operates as that staffing company, and it's a staffing company for a particular segment of our workforce that otherwise may just be untapped.
Well, I imagine, given the COVID-19 situation, that there's a lot of interest in what you're doing there.
Absolutely. The workforce demands have never been higher. And so it is a very unusual time. I think that what's important is, from my perspective, and I'm an employer too, I understand what it feels like to have positions that are unfilled, but it's never, I think, really a great situation to just be pulling bodies in to have them fill jobs. And so I think what we worry about is in an economy like this where there's a lot of workforce need, we still want to emphasize it's important to bring in folks and to bring them up right in the employment. It's important to think about people as long-term investments and providing the sustainability and the coaching that makes someone a good and then a great employee. And so even in the midst, I guess, of this flurry for hiring, we still want to say, like, think about these folks as investments in people that will, sort of be your great employee going forward, and really pouring ourselves as companies into their their good performance and their sustainability.
I'm glad you're doing that. We need these people, and we need them to succeed in these jobs. Really do.
Yeah, I think what we've seen is that if you boil things down, poverty is really going to be the driver for people to end up going back into prison, that cycle that we all hear about. And the cycle isn't just with that person, the cycle is with that person's descendants or extended family.
Yeah.
It's that person's household and neighborhood. And so, really trying to make transformative change starts with a single life, but almost immediately has ripple effects and ramifications for the broader community.
What made you choose to expand into Chattanooga from Nashville?
You know, we got a lot of external encouragement over the years that this thing that we're doing is really replicable for basically any urban area. And when I say urban area, we consider ourselves part of like a multi-county sort of region wherever we are. There's great reach from our sort of hub. And so once we started thinking about it, we created a strategic directive for ourselves as an organization to really explore expansion. And then it was very evident that there were great efficiencies to expand into other cities in Tennessee, since we're already going into Tennessee penitentiaries, working with the Tennessee legislature and the governor's office and other departments. And so, having done that, we explored both Chattanooga and Memphis, and are really interested in going both directions. But started just talking with folks in Chattanooga. Really got a clear vision for the way in which employers were interested, and the way in which there's a lot of manufacturing work, particularly in Chattanooga, which is a great match. And then we were just welcomed across the sectors in Chattanooga. It's the bad thing about starting our expansion in Chattanooga is they probably have spoiled us for other cities. But it's really truly been not just a motion of welcoming, but also like substantively really helpful. And so that has made our beginning in Chattanooga really great. So we opened our doors in September of 2021. Symbolically, we opened the day after Labor Day. And so that was intentional to say we're about the work. And it's really been great to be on the ground there.
Well, this is a growing city, but it is still has the hospitality of a small southern town. The combination is fascinating, isn't it?
Right. Yes.
Well, I'm delighted that you're expanding. I think that you're being able to replicate what you do is very important, and who knows what the future will bring. Do you have plans for the next 5, 10 years?
Yeah, we would like to expand into our next city within the next 2 years. So really just kind of keeping that process going. And I, having said that, I would hasten to add, like, we fully recognize that there are lots of efforts going on already. I mean, Chattanooga has a lot of wonderful work happening for people, and likewise, other American cities are doing great work. So the sad part of this is that in the world of reentry, there's it's as if there's more work to go around than we can possibly be meeting. And so when we come to Chattanooga and other communities, it's really trying to say, we want to be your good partner. We want to integrate into your community, add value, be a part of the shoulder to shoulder work. That means that the whole community is stronger. So it's really important for me to just verbalize that and say, we're not trying to come in and say that we're going to save anything or really change anything, but really just add to the effort, because we know the community wants itself to be that best place.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I know that you have uh, struggled or worked with the issues of poverty and communities that are at risk, and that the issue of race and is part of all of that. Right? And it's a tough
Absolutely.
one here in Tennessee, in the South in general. How does
Yeah.
that play out in your work?
So we are painfully cognizant of that dynamic. We know this is not a newsflash from Project Return. It is well understood that the phenomenon of mass incarceration has devastated, ravaged parts of our cities, and particularly African American neighborhoods. The streets and social gatherings of our predominantly African American segments of our cities are marked and damaged by the mass incarceration that is our current American reality. So, and in Tennessee, the percent of the population that is African American in the state is it's double that in the prisons. And so there is statistically, we just know that it is from the very beginning of the criminal legal system as we interact with it as human beings, at every juncture along the way, it is disproportionately negatively impacting African Americans in particular. So I think for purposes of talking about diversity, there is so much desire for particularly like diversity and equity in the workplace, for example. But statistically or numerically speaking, it's really a failed effort to talk about achieving diversity if we're excluding people who have a criminal conviction history because of the fact that the criminal legal system has disproportionately pulled them into the criminal legal system and incarcerated them. So if we really do want diversity and equity, for example, in our workplaces, we're almost impelled to turn a face toward people who have a criminal conviction history, understand that that is a part of their past, and find the ways to make them a part of our future as a community and as a workforce.
Oh, I applaud your efforts for sure. This is such an important, vital initiative for all of us. I'm delighted to see you expanding and planning more expansion and partnership with different cities so that they can try and wrap their minds and arms around what you're trying to do. You know, absolutely. And you personally, with your background and your passion for this, you know, and your dedication, you know, it is wonderful to see. This isn't just a job, is it?
No, and I really I would say like I just work with a lot of great people who have that who bring that same passion and the advantage that we have is that we are spending our days with the very individuals that I'm telling you are worthy and are trying to build their future. And I think that's an inspiration in itself. And that's what happens in the workplace when we're able to staff work sites with individuals who are motivated and are trying to succeed. Those employers see that as well. And so the more it's the more that our folks are able to be integrated in our community, the more they're able to be integrated in our community. So it is really a building, a compounding kind of a thing. So.
Well, I've been fascinated with your background in the Peace Corps back in the day, and I see that you have applied it amazingly well over the years.
They say it's the toughest job you'll ever love, but I may have a competitor for that in my current career. So.
So do you have any advice for people as we start to wrap this up? What would you say they should be doing?
Oh goodness, I probably what I should have done before I started at Project Return was just to realize there's this world out there of members of our community who are currently behind bars but will rejoin us, and that is an opportunity to be embraced and a strength that we can build. I think volunteering is always a great thing. I think if there are people who are interested and want to spend time in our Chattanooga office or our Nashville office, there's meaningful ways to be engaged there and gain some of that proximity that I'm so fortunate to have every day. And certainly just look up Project Return, get friendly with us. We love getting to know new people and finding ways to connect.
Excellent. Project Return. Anything else you would like to add on its behalf?
Check our website out, projectreturninc.org. Look us up on social media, Project Return TN. And yeah, just watch us grow. And we're grateful to be in Chattanooga and Nashville.
Well, thank you for all that you do. It's just wonderful to hear about it and for our audience to hear about it. Audience, take note. There's the website.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.